Hello and welcome to our channel, where we share the most thrilling and captivating stories. Without further ado, enjoy watching. The protagonist of this manhwa is the most ordinary person you could ever meet. He works at a logistics center to cover his monthly expenses, and it seems he doesn't like his job very much. The reason behind his lack of enthusiasm for his work will become clear to you now. When he tries to make small talk with the robot next to him, the robot completely ignores him and immediately starts working. And this is exactly what he hates about his job. The entire warehouse is filled with advanced AI robots that handle most of the work. Jang is responsible for overseeing everything, but there's no one to talk to. He often feels frustrated. Longing for the warmth of human interaction, he sometimes wonders if he's in the wrong place. All of this began just 2 months after he was discharged from military service, marking the start of a series of misfortunes. The first blow came when his parents moved to another city to live. As a gift for his military discharge, his father paid him a deposit for 6 months' rent in advance. They left him to live alone near his old school, and thus, a life of solitude was imposed upon him. Despite his financial stability, thanks to government support and his parents covering the rent, he took his time searching for a job. He hopes to land the perfect opportunity without rushing into anything. But unfortunately, things didn't go as he had hoped. He faced rejection time and time again, without even being given the chance to prove himself. After a month of job hunting, he began to lose his mind from the sheer boredom. One day, while complaining to his sister about being the only unemployed sibling, she relentlessly teased him without mercy. During their conversation, he mentioned that many people work as operators for delivery companies that use AI robots to simplify tasks. These words sparked his interest. This led him to that lifeless place, where there was literally no one to talk to. But as he tells his story, someone else calls out to him. At first, this person seems angry and unfriendly. Anyone might mistake him for the manager, as he tells the older worker that the tuna is out of stock, despite the system showing that there is still some available. He also instructs him to check the warehouse for the missing stock. Of course, Jang agrees with a forced smile, saying that he finds the robots warmer than the cold-hearted supervisor. But when Jang enters the warehouse, without noticing, the door behind him almost closes. As he searches for the tuna, he finds it on a high shelf and climbs up to grab it. But suddenly, he hears the sound of the door closing, trapping him inside. He tries to open the handle, but it's stuck. When he tries to call his manager, the call goes unanswered. But he thinks for a moment about calling emergency services, but decides against it, reasoning that it's not worth the trouble since he's not in any real danger. Instead, he takes a picture and sends it to his sister, telling her that he's trapped, but she mocks him. She mentions that she heard the sound of a building collapse near her house. Jang feels concerned and decides to call her, but when she answers, she remains silent. As he begins to think she's joking, the entire warehouse shakes. The emergency alarm blares loudly, and the atmosphere shifts into chaos, with an announcement urging everyone to evacuate. But Jang is trapped in the warehouse and has no idea what's happening outside. He starts banging on the door desperately, but no one responds. In a panic, he tries calling emergency services again. But he discovers there is no phone signal. He feels like he's losing his mind and wonders if there's a disaster happening outside. Then, suddenly, he hears something banging on the door and is shocked to realize that the door is about to break from the intense blows. He trembles and steps back from the door, knowing things could get very bad, and that any sound he makes will lead to his doom. He starts sweating. He drops to his knees in relief when the banging stops, but he hears screams and noise outside, still terrified. 3 days pass, and he's still trapped inside, eating the food stored in the warehouse. With no one searching for him, he becomes convinced that something catastrophic has happened. Then he wonders if a war has broken out and feels a sense of gratitude for being stuck inside. He believes he may be safer here, as the alarm that had been blaring non-stop has been silent since yesterday, giving him some peace. However, as his phone battery nears depletion, he doesn't know how much longer he can endure. This could be his last message to the outside world, and he prays that someone finds his location soon and keeps his family safe. He thought things might get worse. A system window appears in front of him, telling him that he has been chosen and needs to check his awakened ability. At first, he thought he had lost his mind, but another window appears, revealing that he has acquired the subspace skill. This space allows him to store anything. He then begins to wonder if there was some strange substance in the tuna he was eating that made him hallucinate. Then another notification appears, stating that a target has been assigned, asking him if he wants to store it. Without hesitation, Jang agrees to the matter, and suddenly he falls and lands on the ground outside. He then gets up and looks around to find everything in a state of destruction, with debris and rescue operations everywhere. He then notices the supervisor's dead body nearby. As the system windows continue to appear, Jang is busy vomiting when he sees the supervisor's body. Meanwhile, the system announces that it has found an appropriate operating system for him, and it is now being executed. But suddenly, he hears footsteps approaching from behind. A large shadow casts over him, and he is almost certain that this shadow does not belong to a human. As the scene widens, we see a monstrous creature resembling an orc with sharp teeth and a large, blood-covered body. Behind Jang, the feeling of terror begins to invade him. He hopes that his worst fears are just illusions. Then he starts convincing himself that the loud roar from 3 days ago came from a gorilla or a bear. However, he doesn't dare to look back. Instead, he dashes away quickly and runs for his life. Jang's fear intensifies when he realizes that a real monster is chasing him. As he runs, he steps on the blood of another person scattered on the ground. He has no idea why a creature like the orc is here, or why it's chasing him, but all he can do is run as fast as he can to avoid becoming the orc's hearty dinner. But suddenly, the system window appears, announcing that the synchronization is complete and asking him if he wants to enter the subspace. Without thinking, Jang answers yes. In the next moment, the monster attacks with its hand. But just in the nick of time, Jang enters the subspace. The monster is left trapped on the other side. Then, Jang wonders, puzzled, why the creature couldn't enter. A drone appears, explaining that no one can enter the subspace without permission, as it is part of his abilities. The drone further explains that the subspace is entirely under his control. Jang is shocked and feels strange as he watches the drone speak to him. He then looks around and realizes that he has returned to the order fulfillment center, but now the warehouse has become part of his subspace. The place is filled with the robots that were there before. The system then informs him that by entering the subspace for the first time, he will be rewarded with a mana stone. The stone appears in his hand, but before he can figure out what to do with it, the monster outside hits the door, causing Jang to panic. He had forgotten that he was being chased by a terrifying creature. He asks the system if the creature can enter. The system confirms that nothing can enter without its approval. Then a new window appears, telling him that the Order Fulfillment Center is a facility consisting of 5 floors, with a vast area that can store anything he wants. It contains everything necessary to improve the customers' lives. It can also ship products at speeds of up to 60 km per hour. Jang is completely stunned by all this information, just like anyone else would be in his position. The system informs him that there are only 2 minutes left until maintenance begins. But we see Jang still in a state of confusion, asking if the facility will stop working after 2 minutes. The drone confirms this and explains that he can use the mana stone to power the facility and maintain its features inside the subspace. With just 1 mana stone, he can keep the facility running for 24 hours. Jang is amazed as the drone explains that the energy system of the center has been modified to work after using the mana stone, which is stored in the subspace. Jang remains skeptical and asks if this is real or just nonsense from sci-fi movies. Suddenly, the facility's lights go out, and the drone starts issuing warnings. The system announces that the energy has been cut off, and if the energy isn't restored, the products in the warehouse, such as fresh vegetables, meat, and ready meals, will begin to rot. Jang realizes that food is essential for survival in a world filled with chaos, and if the power goes out on the freezers and refrigerators, it could be a big problem. He then asks the drone if the mana stone can really replace electricity. The drone confirms that it can. He then asks how to obtain more mana stones. The drone replies that he can get them from ancient creatures from another world. However, Jang isn't excited about facing those giant monsters that could tear him apart easily. But the drone tells him he must use the current mana stone to power the facility again. After that, Jang goes to the warehouse to gather as many weapons as possible. But the system window displays their prices with a limited quantity. Jang is very worried about the stock running out if he throws everything at the monsters too quickly. He's also unsure if these weapons can penetrate the thick skin of the orc. He then tries a different approach, attempting to gradually weaken the monster rather than trying to kill it all at once. It might be a smarter strategy since the creature cannot enter the subspace. Therefore, there's no need to worry. He should focus on hitting it bit by bit, ensuring he doesn't waste materials or deplete his weapons too quickly. Then Jang begins to throw the axe quickly. But it misses and only scratches the monster, increasing the creature's anger. With his original plan failing and realizing that the weapons are limited, the hero tries again, using the axe. He hopes that this time the result will be more effective. He asks the system how many weapons are left in stock. To his surprise, the system tells him there are 15 axes remaining. Jang is shocked, as he expected the number to be much higher, and this small number really surprised him. He then starts checking the storage location of these axes. When he reaches the storage area, he is shocked to find that the axes repeat infinitely. If you enjoyed the story, support us with a like and subscribe to the channel, as I will be posting more soon. Now, goodbye.